right, how to play Cheryl in Evil Dead, the game. Two things real quick before we get started. First of all, you may notice in all these videos that I've made on how to play a character, none of them have been level 25. I try to assess the level 25 perk even without having used it. There will probably be future videos in which I've spent a lot of time playing a character at level 25 and then assessing how good they are after that. But for now, I could basically determine for the most part how they're going to play at level 25 after I've spent enough time to get them to 20 or above. And I just want to get the video out and give people a guide on how they should be playing. But yeah, that's why they're not ever at 25. And then the second thing is you should subscribe if you haven't already. If you're watching this video, why not? Why not do it? Hey, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. You should do it. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about her abilities first. First thing is ability breakdown. She's got Healing Touch, which puts a little zone down on the ground that gives 80 healing per second. Lasts for 6 seconds, 90-second cooldown. This ability is not as great as I thought it was. It's really good, but it doesn't heal as much as I thought it did. And it's also really hard to use in solo queue because I promise you, your teammates are going to be allergic to Healing Touch. If you have a teammate who's near death and you put this down, they are going to run away from it. It's the weirdest thing. Cheryl mains, I'm sure, could relate. The next one is carry more Shep's Cola and start the match with an extra one in your inventory. That's huge. I mean, Shemps is crazy, and it's even crazier on her because of Shemps being crazy on supports and how they heal everybody around her. Being able to start with an extra one and carry more is really important. She could carry more Shemps than anybody because of that, and she could just get loaded up on Shemps. And most of the time when I play Cheryl, when we go into the final part of the match where we're, you know, fighting the Dark Ones and protecting the book, I have maximum amount of Shemps left. And then it's like, there's no stopping your team because they basically have infinite health at that point. So that's a crazy good ability. Drinking a Shep's Cola partially reduces your fear and the fear of your nearby teammates. This is kind of whatever. It's good. You're going to be drinking lots of Shemps. The effect isn't that great. Don't ever drink Shemps to reduce someone's fear, specifically, please. The only time I would say, like, that you should absolutely do that is if for some reason you're playing with, like, a hunter who's really OP and can 1 or 2 shot you guys. And you're like, okay, we're about to get to a fire. I have to down this to make sure we don't lose the game. Like, that's the only time you should be using it, just for a fear reduction. It's just a nice little bonus on top of the healing that you're going to be using it for. And then her level 25 ability, I think, looks like the most ridiculous ability she has, which is she gets the inherent ability that all supports have, like, again, essentially. She recovers 100 health on everybody around her in addition to the healing that she already gives them from the built-in support class ability. So it's crazy. It's a really crazy ability. Obviously I'm not 25 yet, so I haven't gotten to play around with it, but just reading what it does and knowing how much health that is, that's a crazy ability. She's already insane without that. And when you add that on top of it, it's nuts. She's probably the best healer in the game because of it. And she's so good that I plan on doing another survivor tier list once I've maxed every survivor to 25. And I'll tell you right now, she'd move up my tier list. She's probably an S tier based on my time I've spent with her. She's really, really good. So then for perks, my perk build loadout is all over the place, but there's 3 ways that you could build her. You could either build her to have melee, to deal melee damage. You could build her to deal range damage, or you could build her to keep her alive. And you can't really go wrong with any of them. Keeping her alive is really important because she's your healer, and if you lose your healer early, then that's not good. So yeah, you can't go wrong with that. I've kind of built her into melee here. The reason her tree is so frustrating is the way that it's structured. So right here is a melee based perk, then it's a ranged based perk, and then if you go down this way, it's a range based perk and then a melee based perk. So you can't go 100% one way or the other. You're gonna have to waste essentially some points in whatever side you don't want to pick if you're deciding to be either melee or ranged. Down here, I would say never take any of these. This stuff down here that's based on like reviving your teammates, don't take those. Those are really bad. Your teammates should never be going down anyway, and even if they do, there's no guarantee that you're going to be the one who picks them up. Whoever picks them up needs to be whoever gets that opportunity. Like, for all you know, your teammate's going to get downed, and then the boss who's possessed is going to focus on you, and it's going to have to be another teammate who picks them up, and then that's useless. And half the matches you play, nobody's going to go down at all until you lose the match or win the match. So it's not good. Don't take those perks. There's nothing wrong with taking the health one. I wouldn't take the packing pop, start with an extra shemps personally, unless you're just putting one in here to get to maximum health to do a full tank build, because she already starts with an extra shemps. You're gonna find so many shemps in the match, especially if you have a team that works with you and gives you the shemps like they're supposed to. You're gonna have maximum amount of shemps the whole match. There's no real reason to start with more. Playing solo, where my team never gives me healing items ever, I'm maxed out on shemps every single round. So don't take that unless you're just doing it to get to industrial strength. The only thing I will say about her that is absolutely required, regardless of build, and that is true of any support you play, you have to pick these two up. Deep pockets for shemps and deep pockets for amulets, you have to pick those. I don't care what build you take. I don't care if you decide you're going to take these bad perks down here on reviving. You have to take deep pockets. You need to carry as many shemps as you can. You need to carry as many amulets as you can. It's going to make the difference between you losing the match or not. 2 more amulets and 2 more shemps that you could use to AoE, shield, or heal your teammates is insane. You have to take those. Another thing I want to add is that as you're like leveling up, don't put like 1 perk here, 1 perk here, 1 perk here. Like, just max out a perk at first, because you're going to get bigger bonuses the further on you are in the tree, for the most part. So there's some exceptions. So like, if you're like, man, I really want to get devastating force maxed, don't go 1 1 1 1 1, you know, until you could get to that point. Go 1, you know, 1 and max shields out, you know, max out deep pockets. That's what you want to do. But anyway, getting into my build specifically, I'm going for melee because in my testing, she's already tanky enough as she needs to be, in my opinion, because of all of her shemps and because of all of her amulets and her active healing ability. So I don't think she needs to be any tankier. If you're good with dodges, you shouldn't be getting hit that much, because they could dodge 2 or 3 times when their stamina's maxed. So what I like to do is go 1 here, 1 here. I max out balance bar damage. Balance bar damage, in my opinion, is really good on her because you get those iframes, which is just going to make you even tankier, essentially, and help you avoid damage. I'm going to max out the last word and get that to 3, because 50% damage on the last hit of your combo is crazy. I'm going to put 4 in here to get that 15% extra melee damage, because melee damage in my testing with her, because supports don't have any bonuses to ranged or melee. Melee's just better. It helps protect her. She's going to be more helpful in combat. I tried maxing out range and I just didn't see a lot of damage being done. So it's like, it just feels like a waste. You're not going to have enough ammo to really make an impact. I was running out of ammo constantly because I wasn't doing enough damage. Melee is just better, in my opinion. So I went with melee. And And then obviously deep pockets here, and then I have 5 points left, and what I'm going to do with that is put 1 in the last word, like I said. I'm probably going to put 2 in tougher than hell to give her 2% damage resistance, or 10% damage resistance, I should say. 10% damage resistance, really, really good. Once again, still kind of making her a little tankier. And then I would probably... I don't know what, so that's 3, right? So 1 here, 2 here. You have 2 points left over. I don't know what I'd do with the last 2. I remember thinking about this before I started filming this video, and now I can't remember. I think I'd probably put 1 in Artful Dodger. And then I'd probably put, I don't know, the last point you can really put anywhere, and it would be fine. It doesn't really matter. You could start with an extra Shemps if you want, even though I just buried that perk. Point is, I like going in with melee with her because I think it makes a bigger difference. I think she's already tanky enough, and going into melee kind of makes her tankier, and she's going to make a bigger difference in combat. So that's what I would do perk-wise. I think that's probably the best way to build her. Pink F upgrades. Let's do that next. A little Pink F. Pink F with Cheryl is pretty... Well, I don't think it's probably as straightforward as some of the other ones, but it's a little easier than, I don't know, like a leader. I'm playing Annie Nobi right now for my next video, and her Pink F upgrades are a little bit harder than these ones. For me,
and that I will die for my transgression.
I would say the first thing you want to upgrade is your shield. The reason for that is that you want to get enough bars so that you could take amulets around your teammates and not be wasting them on yourself. So like, you know, if you have a Henry or the Red on your team and they already have, you know, 2 shield bars, you want to get your shield bars up as much as you can so you can constantly be using amulets to get their amulets up. After that, I would say fear reduction is really good. Stamina is really good. You can't really go wrong with either because both is 30%, a 30% increase. Both is really good. Between the two of them, dang, I would probably say fear, because you don't want to be getting like possessed, and in the early going you probably don't need to dodge as much because you're not going to be really running into enemies as much. So I'd probably go fear second and then stamina. You can't go wrong either way. There's arguments against both. I would just say for sure go shield first and then pick one of fear, stamina. You could even put like 1 into fear and 1 into and level them both up. But I'd say shield first and then one of these 2 second. After that, I'd probably put my points into health, honestly. The difference here in melee, I don't think is enough to warrant like putting points into it. I am playing a melee sort of build with them, so I don't know, man. It's hard. That's why it's hard. See, this is what I meant when I said it's not as straightforward as some of the other characters. Because they're not good at anything except healing. They don't get a buff to their melee. They don't get a buff to their ranged. You can kind of play them however you want. Man, I'm not sure then. I would actually probably go melee first, then health, then ranged. Ranged last. If you are playing a ranged character instead, then ranged first, then health, then melee is how you'd want to run it. So it just depends on how you're building your character. If you're building them like me, I would go melee first. So in order, shield first, your pick of fear, stamina, then melee, then health, then ranged. That's how I would do it. All right, let's check a little bit of gameplay and explain what weapons you want to use. For ranged weapons, I would say you just want to pick up the scraps of whatever your team doesn't want. Don't take really good weapons. I know I'm saying this as I have a legendary boomstick equipped, but that's because we didn't have a hunter on our team and one guy disconnected, so we were kind of getting a little desperate. But like, if you find a legendary weapon and there's a hunter on your team, ping it for your hunter, or pick it up and drop it for him, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that you don't get priority when it comes to either ranged weapons or melee weapons. Your teammates are going to get priority. For ranged weapons, it's going to be your hunters get priority. For melee weapons, it's going to be your warriors get priority. And also, there's some nuance to that too. Like, for instance, if you have an Annie on your team who really specializes in ranged, give her a ranged weapon before you take a really good one. If you find a really good sword and you have an Arthur on your team, give that to Arthur. If you find a really good meat hammer, even though Kelly is a hunter, give her the meat hammer. Don't take it first. Yeah, so that's going to be your role as a support. You're just going to kind of pick up the scraps as far as what you're looking for. I really like taking like a pistol if you're a support, because you're not going to be dealing damage with range too much. Your role is going to be kind of preventing the possession of other people. Pistol's really good for stun locking teammates who get possessed. So I'd say pistol is like something you want to look for. Anything else that's like really high fire rate, like a lever action rifle, is good too. I would avoid anything that's like high damage. Like, normally the blunderbuss is really good, but I would probably avoid that unless you're speccing into range specifically. It's not great for like depossessing teammates or anything like that. Melee weapon wise, I would say you want to take anything that has high balance bar damage. So you're looking for the sledgehammer, you're looking for the axe, any of those, like, S or A tier weapons that I talked about in my melee weapon tier list, which you should watch, by the way, if you haven't. So look for anything like that that has big balance bar damage, because you want to constantly be spamming finishers as much as you possibly can. That's key to like helping you stay alive. Those iframes are really important, especially key in like boss fights, like when, towards the end when there's lots of mobs and there's a boss that's spawned. You can use that to get iframes, and then as you come out of it, pop a shemps and heal up all your teammates. So that's really, really good. As far as how to play, there's a few important things, and I'm probably going to put this in another video as like basics of how to play this game. First of all, you want to make sure that you're constantly asking for amulets and for shemps. So whatever your ping button or key is, you want to hold it down, do a long press on it, and it will bring up a little wheel, and then you can select, whatever you want and ask for something. You can ask for ammo, you can ask for healing, you can ask for shields. When you're low on either one, ask, and your teammates might drop it for you, and then you can help heal them. When you get to the end of an objective like Dagger or Lost Pages, where your team is going to be all in one area, if they're hurt, lay down your healing and just top them off, because by the time you get to whatever the next objective is, whether it's the opposite objective of the Pages or the Dagger, or it's heading over to the Dark One's objective, you're going to get that back. So just keep your team topped off as much as you can. Lay down your Q when you're near teammates before you pop a shemps. Shemps should be something that you use as an emergency, basically. Like, you see somebody's low and they're about to die right now, and your ability's on cooldown, pop a shemps. Otherwise, try to rely on your ability as much as you possibly can. So yeah, that's how I would say you want to play Cheryl. Another thing I would add is that, and this is kind of interesting, I'd say early in the game, try not to use amulets as much. Save that towards the end of the game, because you have a healing ability on your Q, and early in the game, units are not going to be doing as much damage. You don't want to be like wasting your amulets early. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you give somebody an amulet and they get chunked a couple of times by a small unit, or by, you know, a regular mob, whatever you want to call them, you just wasted that amulet that you just gave to them. Whereas if you don't give it to them yet and you save it towards the end, you can heal the health that they lose from getting hit with your Q. And then you can save your amulets for when you really need them towards the last few objectives when the boss is super leveled up. So keep that in mind. I would say try to save your amulets as much as you can. The only time I would say don't save them is if your team is super cooperative and they're constantly giving you amulets to use on everybody. In my experience in solo queue, teammates never cooperate that way. They'll never drop you amulets pretty much. That doesn't mean you shouldn't ask. Always ping and ask, hey, I need amulets. Always do that, even if they don't listen. Because who knows, they might eventually do it, and then that could change the whole game. So yeah, try to save amulets till the end if you can. If you have to burn amulets because your team sucks and you need to do it to keep them alive, don't hesitate to do it. I'm just saying that if you're really far ahead and your team's really dominating, try to save your amulets towards the end of the match if you can. But yeah, don't be afraid to burn. After I just said that, you know, ping amulets and stuff for your team. If you are maxed out and can't hold anymore, ping them. And if they don't come get them, use an amulet on yourself and then pick up that amulet. That's basically how you would play Cheryl, who, like I said, I think is one of the better characters in the game and even better than I gave her credit for. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you give me some comments on how you feel about Cheryl. Like the video, don't forget to subscribe, all that good stuff, and thank you for watching.